The air was thick with the scent of pine, and the moon casted long shadows over the dense forest. The only sounds were hurried footsteps rustling against the frantic pounding of 3 hearts, one belonging to the fearless cat, another to you, and another belonging to a mysterious wolf. You sprinted along as Puss and Boots, your breath coming in ragged gasps, your muscles burning as you pushed yourself harder. The night air bit at your skin and the real chill came from behind you. The steady, measured footsteps of the wolf who never faltered, never stumbled. Death was coming, and he would not be denied. Puss, despite his legacy and legendary agility, was beginning to slow. He was tired, you could see it, in the way that his boots dragged against the earth, the way his ears looked backwards, searching for an escape that did not exist. You knew what was going on through his mind, and he was down to his last life, and death was here to claim it. You caught his wrist, paw? Whatever, and you yanked him forward as he tripped over an exposed root. He gave a small yelp, and you shot a look of gratitude, mixed with frustration. "Amigo, this is not the time to be my savior," he panted, but he didn't pull away. "You must go. Not happening," you snapped, pulling him forward as you dodged another root. "You really think I'm just gonna let you die?" you asked. Before he could argue, an all too familiar sound rang throughout the night, a slow, deliberate whistle. A shiver ran down your spine. From the shadows ahead, 2 glowing red eyes appeared, gleaming like embers in the dark. The wolf stepped into the moonlight, his twin sickles glinting. His presence was suffocating, his confidence was absolute. He didn't need to run. He didn't need to chase. He was inevitable. Puss yanked free from your grip and stepped in front of you, drawing his sword with a metallic hiss. Death tilted his head slightly, amused as he took another step forward, dragging one of his sickles against the trunk of a nearby tree. The sound was sharp, grating like the promise of something final. "You're running," Death said, his voice smooth as a purr. "But we both know where this ends." Puss tightened his grip on his sword, but you saw a slight tremor in his paws. You stepped aside. Death's gaze flickered to you, and something in his expression shifted. You again," he exhaled, in something that sounded like amusement. "You have an interesting way of getting in my way." You swallowed, but you didn't back down. "I'm not letting you take him," you whimpered out. Death chuckled. "Oh? And you think you can stop me?" He took another step forward, a hunter, saving the moment for the kill. "Tell me, little one, do you know what it's like to run out of time?" Your throat tightened, but you didn't answer. Puss shot you a look, and then turned back to Death. "My aunt has nothing to do with this. This is between you and me," he stated. "Is that so?" Death mused, his eyes narrowing. "And yet they run beside you. They fight for you. Why is that? Do you think you deserve to be saved?" He flinched. You clenched your fists. "Of course he does." Death was silent for a moment, then he sighed. "You mortals are always so sentimental." He twirled one of his sickles with ease, the very sharp edges catching on the moonlight. "Well, let's see just how much you're willing to risk." Then he struck. The world exploded into motion. Puss leapt forward, clashing Death's sickles with his sword in a clash of sparks. You barely had time to move. The force of the impact sent leaves flying around you. Puss was fast, but Death was faster. Every swing of the sickles was precise and relentless, pushing Puss back step by step. You grabbed a fallen branch and swung it at Death's back, trying to throw him off balance. He didn't even turn. He simply ducked, letting the branch sail over his head, and with a flick of his wrist, he knocked it off your feet. You hit the ground hard, the wind knocked from your lungs. Puss yelled your name, but he had no time to help. Death was on him again, rather than forcing himself to defend than attack. You struggled to get on your feet, your vision swimming. Your body screamed in protest. You couldn't just sit there and watch him fight alone. I thought hate you. Death played by his own rules, but he still liked to play. He liked the chase, the drama, the fight. You forced yourself to stand. You forced yourself up to stand tall, wiping the blood from your lip. You called out to Death. He didn't stop fighting, but one ear twitched in your direction. I have a proposal, you whimpered, not sure if this would ever work. Puss barely dodged a strike. You ignored him, keeping your eyes locked on Death. I have a game for you. Death blocked Puss's blade with one sickle as he turned his full attention to you. I'm listening, he asked. He swallowed hard. If you win, you take his life. But you continued. If he wins, you let him go. Forever. Puss turned to you in shock. Death's eyes gleamed with something unreadable. Then slowly he smiled. Interesting. His voice was cold and breezy. So what exactly do you wager? He hesitated, then forced himself to say it. My life? The forest was silent. Even Puss, for once, was speechless. Death tilted his head. You would trade your life for his. You nodded. No tricks, no running. If he wins, you leave, and if he loses, you take me instead. Death chuckled. Oh, I do like you. He spun his sickles. Very well. A duel then. No interference, one final battle. Puss swallowed hard, then nodded. Deal. Death smiled. Then let's see if the legend of Puss in Boots is worth one more life. And with that, the duel began. You stood frozen as they clashed, steel against steel, light against the shadow. Every movement was faster, more brutal, more desperate. You had gambled everything on Puss's skill and his will to live. But would it be enough? The night was still, the world holding its breath as he faced death in a duel unlike any other. You stood on the sidelines, heart hammering in your chest, watching the two warriors clash under the silver light of the moon. The stakes were clear. If he won, death would leave him alone. But if he lost, you would take his place. A foolish deal, absolutely, but you weren't about to let someone die. The forest rang with the sound of metal on metal, sparks flying as Puss's raspier voice met the sharp curve of Death's sickle. The wolf was calm and steady with his every movement. Puss, however, felt like a man with something to prove. He wasn't just defending someone. He was defending you and his life. You could see it in the way his eyes burned determination, in the way his feet moved swiftly across the forest, dodging and weaving and looking for an opening. He had faced death before, but never like this, never with so much on the line. Death struck low, his sickle carving into the shallow groove of the dirt as Puss narrowly leaped over it, the cat landing slightly, flipping his sword with his paw before lunging forward, aiming for his shoulder. But Death was already gone. He moved like a shadow, sidestepping with an eerie ease into one fluid motion. He spun, one sickle slashing towards Puss's ribs. He barely had time, clashing his sword against the curved blade with a sharp clang. You fight well, Gato, Death mused, his voice smooth, almost amused. Better than last time. Puss gritted his teeth, pushing his sickle with all his strength. I have something to fight for. Death chuckled, as if genuinely entertained. Love then. His eyes flickered towards you for the briefest moment. Your breath caught, but you didn't say anything. Puss shoved him back, panting. Honor, he said, golden eyes flashed, and I intend to win. Death tilted his head. Let's see then.